Hello grade 8, how are you today? In this video we are going to continue our lesson يلي هو كان اسمه square roots, which is this one. Okay. In square roots we took last time أخذنا two ideas only أو two objectives اللي هن define a square root and identify square roots of perfect squares. هلا in today's lesson we will continue by performing calculations with square roots and comparing square roots. Okay. So at the beginning, let's do some revision from the previous lesson. I'll do some revision. This is done. Okay, هيدا أخذنا last time. First, to refresh your memory, 2 square is 2 times 2, which is 4. 5 square is 5 times 5, which is 25, and so on. Okay, now let's write the numbers as perfect squares. So 25 equal 5 square, 81 equal 9 square. Those numbers are called perfect squares. Okay, which comes from a whole number squared. 10 squared, 100 is a perfect square. 3 squared equal 9. 9 is a perfect square. Okay, and we took also in the previous video, that the square root is called radical, and the square root is the opposite of square. يعني 3 squared equal 9, square root of 9 equal 3. Okay, 7 squared equal 49, the square root of 49 equals 7, which they are the opposite of each others. And we said that the square root sign is called the radical, and it is this sign like this. The one who's inside is called the radicand. This one is called the radicand, and also the radicand which is inside should be positive. Okay, and also we took this formula يلي هي radical a squared equal a, this one. Okay, where a is a positive number. يعني for example radical 5 squared equal to 5. You should remember those ideas before we start the new lesson. Radical 7 squared equals 7, radical 11 squared equal 11, and so on. Okay, where a is positive. And we took also that radical a, all of its squared, is equal to a, as radical 5, all of its squared equal to 5, radical 7, all of its squared is equal to 7, and radical 11, all of its squared is equal to 11, and any number radical 100, all of its square will be 100, any number when you make it square. So radical a, all of its square is equal to a, as those examples. Okay. Also this is done, we take this before, radical 1 equal to 1, we should not forget this, and radical minus a does not exist, as radical minus 5 does not exist, radical minus 9, radical minus 20, radical negative 100, كلهم does not exist. But we could write the negative sign outside the radical as negative radical 5 square equal negative 5, negative radical 11 square equal negative 11, and so on. When negative is outside, there is no problem. When negative is inside, there is a problem. Okay? There's a problem when it is like that. Also, this is done, but also we will take an idea about it. Radical a squared is equal to a, radical 36 is equal to radical 6 squared, which is 6, radical 9 is equal to 3, radical 64 equal to 8, and so on. Okay, so as we said, 3, when you make it square, you will take 9, you will get 9. 9, when you make square root, you will get 3. So it could be written like this, 3 squared equal 9. Okay, but in the inverse, radical 9 equal 3. So when you go squaring like that, when you go backward, square root like this. Okay, now let's start by the most important ideas that we need them in this video, اللي هن those rules. Radical a times radical b equal a radical b. It's written like this. as 3 times radical 7 equal 3 radical 7. يعني هي بتكون 3 times بس بنكتبها 3 radical 7 as 3 times x 3x. Radical A times radical B, we put them above 1 or under 1 radical. When we have multiplication, we write them like this. Radical A times radical A equal radical A squared equal A. This is an important idea. So radical 5 times radical 5 equal 5. Okay. And radical 11 times radical 11 equal 11. Mention this. Write it. Radical 12 times radical 12 equal 12. Radical anything times radical this thing equal radical A, let's say, times radical A equal A. شفتوها؟ هذه هي الفورمولا. This is very important, this one. Okay, so radical A times radical A is equal to what? Equal to A. Radical A over radical B equal radical A over B. When I have multiplication, I write them under one radical, A times B, and when I have division, also I write them under one radical and the fraction inside. Okay, so I keep the radical. This is just in divide and in multiply, but in addition, it's not. In addition, it's not. Okay, radical A or radical 3 plus radical 3, it's not radical 3 plus 3. Not at all. Okay, so we can't apply it like this. We just apply when we have multiply and divide. Okay, but let's start now the new idea. So be careful when adding and subtracting square roots. Okay, it's very similar to adding and subtracting like terms. Okay, so just you add the like term of x. For example, 5x plus 4x. What is the like term here? X. Okay, x is the like term. So 4x plus 5x or 5x plus 4x is equal to 9x. Good? Okay. Fine. When you have 5 radical 3 plus 4 radical 3, for example. Okay. So you will suppose that radical 3 and radical 3, okay, are the like terms. You will suppose that the radical 3 is x and the radical 3 is x. So 5 plus 4, 9. So 9 radical 3. You will suppose that the radical 3 is x. It's the same as you are saying 5x plus 4x is 9x. 5 radical 3 plus 4 radical 3 equal 9 radical 3. We will focus on this idea today. Okay, then it's very, very, very important. Okay. So let me write some examples before we start in the written examples. Let's say radical 3 plus radical 3. How could you add radical 3 plus radical 3? Okay, so is it equal radical 3 plus 3? I want you to try in your calculators. If you started using calculators, press on the left side radical 3 plus radical 3 and write equal, and then press AC and then press radical 3 plus 3 and write equal. It will not give you the same answer. Okay, so radical 3 plus radical 3 is not equal to radical 3 plus 3. So how could you add? You will add it like this: radical 3 plus radical 3. You'll suppose that the radical 3 is x. So if I asked you now x plus x, your answer will be 2x, of course. Apple plus apple, 2 apples. X plus x, 2x. Radical 3 plus radical 3 is 2 radical 3. That's it. Another example. I write it on the right side. Radical 2 plus, for example, 5 radical 2. What the answer will be? So it's the same as x plus 5x. It is 6x. Okay? 1x plus 5x is 6x. Radical 2 plus 5 radical 2. Yeah, it's the same as I'm saying 1 radical 2 plus 5 radical 2. Radical 2 is the common here. Okay, sorry, I erased it all. I used different color. Okay, so radical 2 plus 5 radical 2 is equal to 6 radical 2. Radical 2 is the same here, the common as 5x plus x, it's 6x. The like term, radical 2 plus 5 radical 2 equals 6 radical 2. That's it. Okay, so I suppose now when I ask a question, most of you will answer radical 11 or 2 radical 11 plus 7 radical 11. What the answer will be? It is 2 plus 7, 9 radical 11. And everything is fine till now. So let's take some examples. 7 radical 2 minus 3 radical 2. With minus, it's the same. So 7 radical 2 minus 3 radical 2. We will suppose that the radical 2 is the apple here or the x. So 7x minus 3x. 7 minus 3 is 4 radical 2 only. So it's 4 radical 2. شفتوا الidea؟ كتير سهلة. 11 radical 13 minus 20 radical 13 plus 9 radical 13 equal 11 minus 20 plus 9. Okay, so you add all together 11 minus 20 plus 9, it is equal to 0. So 0 radical 13 is equal to 0, and it's done. Okay, so I'll continue by the next one. 3 radical 5 minus 2 radical 3 plus 7 radical 5 minus 10 radical 3. Okay, look at this. This one is the same as you are saying 3x minus 2y plus 7x minus 10y. Yani you will suppose that radical 5 is x and radical 3 is y. So if I ask you now to simplify this, you will say that 3x and 7x are like terms. Remember like terms? Like terms that have the same variable. We took them at the beginning of the year and last year also. So 3x plus 7x, it's 10x. Okay, so it is 10x. Negative 2y minus 10y. So negative 2y minus 10y is equal to negative 12y. Okay, it's equal to negative 12y. It's the same here. Okay, so it's the same idea here. It is like this. So 3 radical 5 plus 7 radical 5, they are like terms, so it's 10 radical 5. Okay, and also 2 radical 3, this one, oh, I erased it. Okay, anyway, let me write it like this. 2 radical 3 minus 2 radical 3 minus 10 radical 3, it is minus 12 radical 3, and it's done. Okay, يعني انت no need to write all this, but just, hey, no need to write this one. Okay, but only I'm explaining it here. So radical a plus radical a, so it is the same as x plus x equal to x. So radical a plus radical a equal 2 radical a. Okay, 3 radical a plus 4 radical b minus 2 radical a plus 9 radical b. So this one 4 radical B and 9 radical B are like terms. 3 radical A and 2 radical A are like terms. So 3 radical A minus 2 radical A, it is radical A. And also 4 radical B minus 9 radical B, it's minus 5 radical B, and it's done. Okay, that's it. Right, let's perform this one. Sorry. 2 minus radical 3 multiplied by 2 plus radical 3. Also, remember, if I asked you before to perform this one, 2 minus x times 2 plus x. So let's remember from algebra, how could you do it? You multiply 2 by 2, it is 4, and then you multiply 2 by x, it is 2x, and then you multiply negative x by 2, it's minus 2x, and then you multiply negative x times positive x, so negative x squared. That if in algebra. Okay, same here, but instead of x we wrote radical 3. So 2 times radical 3, it is 2 times 2, sorry, 2 times 2 is 2 squared. 2 times 2 is 2 squared. Oh, you may write it 4 directly. 2 times radical 3, it's 2 radical 3. Then negative radical 3 times 2, it's negative 2 radical 3 again. And negative radical 3 times positive radical 3, negative times negative, positive, negative. Radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 3 squared as x squared. Okay, so let's simplify here. Let's check what's going here, or how there's anything to simplify. 2 radical 3 minus 2 radical 3 is 0. Okay, and 2 square is 4. And radical 3 all of its square, remember, from 5 minutes, radical 3 all of its square is equal to what? 3. So 4 minus 3. Okay, this is 3. 4 minus 3 is 1. Okay, let me continue. So if you didn't understand this one, of course, you'll understand it more when I explain number 7. Focus well to understand. Radical 11 minus 5 into radical 11 plus 5. How could we do it? We do radical 11 times radical 11. So let me do it here. Forget this one. Radical 11 times radical 11. It's radical 11 squared. Radical 11 times 5 is 5 radical 11. Minus 5 times radical 11, it's minus 5 radical 11. And minus 5 times 5, it's minus 25. Okay, and then simplify. So let me simplify here. Now, 5 radical 11 minus 5 radical 11 is cancelled. Radical 11 all of its square is equal to 11, remember. Minus 25, so I write it like this, and calculate at the end, it will be negative 14, and that's it. This is the answer. Okay, let me go to more and more examples. 5 radical 6 minus 19 radical 6 plus 6 radical 6. How could you do it? Equal 5 radical 6 minus 19 radical 6 plus 6 or plus radical 6. 5 minus 19, it is negative 14, plus 1, it's negative 13. So negative 13 radical 6. Okay, 2 radical 3 minus 5 radical 2 plus 9 radical 3 plus 7 radical 2. So how could you do it? So it's equal 2 radical 3 plus 9 radical 3, it is 11 radical 3. Okay, 5 radical 2 or negative 5 radical 2 plus 7 radical 2. Okay, it is equal to 2. Negative 5 plus 7 is 2. So plus 2 radical 2. Can I do anything more? No. It's same as 11x plus 2y. So you can't do anything more. You can't say it's 13x or 13y. Okay? So we keep it like that. Same as here. We keep it like that. Couldn't do anything more. Yeah, so we continue here. 4 radical x minus 3 radical x plus 21 radical x minus 10 radical x. أول شيء all of them are like terms. Why? لأنه I have radical x, radical x, radical x, radical x. Okay? So I add the coefficients 4 minus 3 plus 21 minus 10. So let's start adding here. So it will be 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 plus 21 is 22. 22 minus 10 is 12. So it's 12 radical x. Follow me by calculations. Okay, so I'm not mistake. Anyway, I repeat it. I usually repeat it. So 4 minus 3 is 1. Plus 21 is 22. Minus 10 it is 12. Good? Okay, let me go with the next one. Negative 13 radical A plus 4 radical B plus 3 radical A plus 9 radical B. Oh, okay. So I have the negative 13 radical A plus 3 radical A all together and 4 radical B and 9 radical B together. So let's do the first two. I have here minus 3 radical A plus 3 radical A. It is negative 10 radical A. You may do it like this. خلاص, they have finished. They have finished from this, so you may cross them. 4 radical B plus 9 radical B, so it's 13 radical B, and it's done. Couldn't do anything else. Okay. Radical 7 minus 3 into radical 7 plus 3. Okay, so let's do them together. Radical 7 times radical 7, it's equal to radical 7 squared. Radical 7 times 3, it is 3 radical 7. Negative 3 times radical 7, it's minus 3 radical 7. And minus 3 times 3, it's minus 9. Equal, let's cross if there is anything to be crossed. 3 radical 7 minus 3 radical 7 cancelled. Type radical 7 all of its square is equal to 7. And minus 9 we copy it. So the answer will be negative 2. I'm writing it here in one line. There is no space. Okay. Look at this one. 3 into 1 minus radical 5 plus 2 radical 5 into 1 plus radical 5. It feels complicated, but when we solve it, you will see that it's not too complicated. It's just advanced, more advanced, but it's not very hard. So let's start. So here I'll do first 3 times 1, 3 times, okay. So 3 times 1, 3. 3 times minus radical 5 minus 3 radical 5. Right. Let's see what's going here. Plus 2 radical 5 times 1, so I write plus 2 radical 5 plus 2 radical 5 times radical 5, so it is plus 2 radical 5 times radical 5, so 2 radical 5 squared. Okay, it's the same as 2x times x, so it's 2x squared. So 2 radical 5 times radical 5 is 2 radical 5 squared. Here the square is only for the radical 5. Okay, same as we have done here. Radical 7 times radical 7 صارت radical 7 squared بس هون في 2 بس it's radical 5 squared. Okay, so let's see what will happen. So 3 minus 3 radical 5 plus 2 radical 5 plus 2 radical 5 squared 2 times. Okay, what is radical 5 squared here? كلها radical 5 all of it squared مش هي 5 so it's 5. Okay, see what's happened? 2 into radical 5 squared. Radical 5 squared is 5. 2 times 5, now we write it 10. So it's 3 minus 3 radical 5 plus 2 radical 5 plus 2 times 5, 10. And it's equal, so let's simplify it now. 3 plus 10 is 30. So I add 3 and 10. Okay. And then add again this one and this one. So negative 3 radical 5 plus 2 radical 5. So it will be minus 1 radical 5. So minus radical 5. Okay, and it's done. And the last one, when we do the live session, maybe you'll ask me about it. Okay, or when you watch the video and you have any question, you may ask me via WhatsApp. But I prefer on Zoom live لأنه بيكون في contact together. Okay. The last idea today is to compare square roots. How to compare square roots. Until now I have only one more idea, one new idea اللي هي هيدا they like terms. هلا the last idea this lesson today is compare square roots. How to compare square roots. شو يعني compare square roots؟ يعني when I give you for example radical 7 and radical 11 وبيجي بقول لك أنا compare. شو يعني؟ يعني which one is greater? Which one is less than the other? Which one is greater than the other? Okay. طيب. Only there are two ways. واحدة فيهم على calculator which is very easy. And we should not use calculator. يعني هون أنا في عندي two ways. واحدة على calculator but يعني مش دايما أنا بستعمل calculator. Okay. And the other one using the math way أو الواي اللي موجود معنا that we need to use it. You must use it. Okay. يلي هي هاي. Okay. So what should you do here? أول شيء to compare. What should you do? Okay. Square both sides. Compare the squared numbers. Compare the original numbers. How? أول شيء مثلا I have يعني you couldn't understand unless from the examples. Radical 7 and radical 11. First compare both sides. Square both sides. يعني make square of radical 7 make square of radical 11. So when you make square of radical 7 it will be radical 7 squared like this. And when you make radical 11 all of its square also it will be like that. Like calculate radical 7 square it will be 7. Remember we took it. Radical 11 all of its square it will be 11. Also we took it. But which one is greater, 7 or 11? 11 is greater, 7 is less. So we write less than here. And then since 7 is less than 11, so radical 7 is less than radical 11 and we wrote it here. So for example 2 radical 5 and 4. 2 radical 5 and 4. We'll take more examples now here. Square both sides. So 2 radical 5 squares, 4 squared. So we square both sides here and here. Fine. 2 radical 5 all of its square. What it will be? 2 radical 5 all of its square. So I'll explain here some out a little bit. When I make 2 radical 5 all of it squared. Okay, what does this mean? This means that it is 2 squared times radical 5 squared. Why? I know from before that xy all of its square is equal to x squared y squared. I distribute the powers here. We took it in grade 7. Okay, same as here. So 2 squared times radical 5 squared. The 2 squared is 4, radical 5 squared is 5. So for this reason, we wrote it 4 times 5. Okay, and no need to memorize this, no need to use this also. You may directly write the answer. 2 squared is 4. Radical 5, when you make it squared, you will get 5. Not 25, it is 5. 2 times 2 is 4. Radical 5 times radical 5, it's 5. And we compare, we square the right side, which is 4 squared is 16. So 4 times 5, 20. And here 16, this is greater. Since 20 is greater than 16, so this is greater than this. Okay? Like if I ask you now, 2 radical 3 and 3 radical 2, which one is greater? Or maybe they are equal, I don't know. So let's do squaring both sides first. So we square 2 radical 3 and we square 3 radical 2. And we calculate 4 times radical 3 square is 3. 3, 9, 3 squared is 9 times radical 2 squared is 2. Okay? 4 times 3, 12. 9 times 2, 18. This is greater, so this is greater. Done. That's it. Okay? This is everything in our lesson. So I'll make a conclusion now. Radical A, all of its squared equal A. Don't forget, radical A, all of its squared equal A. Radical A squared equal A. Radical minus A does not exist. And radical A times B is radical A is A radical B. A times radical B is A radical B. A radical A times radical B is radical A times B. Radical A times radical A is A. And where do we apply it? We apply it here. On radical 2 times radical 2 is 2. Okay, remember. And also the fraction, don't forget it. This is your worksheet, guys. In worksheet, I just changed the number of the questions from the book, but they are the same. Solved from the worksheet, it's better. These questions, I'll just solve one part from each just to make an idea how to solve it. And then I'll keep the worksheet, of course, in the application. Just press and solve the worksheet. Okay. So first, calculate the square of each of the following numbers. It's just to make squaring of this. Okay. The square of each of the following numbers. And just make it square. Okay. يعني for example 2 power 1 square شو بتصير؟ بتصير 2 power 2 يعني 4. Okay. Why? I used the law. We took it also last year. Okay. Or let me solve it in different way. Easier, I think. Easier. 2 power 1 squared is equal to 2 squared, which is equal 4. 2 power 3 squared is equal to 2 power 3 times 2 power 3. So it's 2 power. I add the powers. Remember, also we took them from before. Okay. 2 times 10 power 4. I want to make it square. So it's equal 2 times 10 power 4 times 2 times 10 power 4. Yeah, times itself 2 times. 2 times 2, 4. 10 power 4 times 10 power 4, it's 10 power 8. It's like that, guys. Simple. Really, it's very simple. Okay? Right. Now, in part B, find the square roots of each of the following numbers. Radical 25, radical 16, radical هولي سهلين كتير. Radical 10 power 8. Okay, radical 10 power 8. Just I'll focus on this one. So in part B here, radical 10 power 8. طيب مش 10 power 8 هي radical 10 power 4 times itself 10 power 4. هيها شفتوها 10 power 4 times 10 power 4 10 power 8. So just keep it or write it in the previous formula here, 10 power 4 times 10 power 4. Okay, this is equal to radical 10 power 4 times radical 10 power 4. This is the only one that I will solve it, and I feel it's somehow hard to you. Okay, so radical 10 power 4 times radical 10 power 4, it is 10 power 4. I don't know if you understood it more, if you understand it well, sorry, but I repeat. So radical 10 power 8 is 10 power 4. In 10 power 8, I write it 10 power 4 times 10 power 4. Okay? And this one, I split it into radical 10 power 4 times radical 10 power 4. Well, I know that from here, I know that radical A times radical A is equal to A. So radical 10 power 4 times radical 10 power 4 is equal to 10 power 4. Okay, anyway, try to solve it, and if you have any question about this in the live session, of course we'll talk about it. This is very easy, I'll not talk about it. Question 3 also, you try to solve it. Question 4, just compare, and we solved like this before. So this is everything for today. Try to solve all the worksheet, and of course if you have any question, keep it aside, write it in a note and ask me about it. Okay, that's everything. Thank you and bye bye.